At least they're finally worth something. My mother said it without lowering her champagne glass. We were standing in the new Vietnam gallery at the Allegheny Museum of Military History, surrounded by donors wearing cream name tags. A string quartet played near the entrance. Waiters moved through the room with trays of crab cakes no one seemed willing to eat. Behind the glass sat my father's silver star, his purple heart, darkened dog tags, and the brass compass he had carried through 19 months in Vietnam. I knew the compass before I read the card. A dent crossed the lid near the hinge. The needle rested 7 degrees west of north because a piece of metal had struck the case near Khe San. When I was 9, Dad taught me to correct for it. A broken instrument can still tell the truth, he had said. You just have to know where the error is. The museum label called the group the Bennett Collection. It listed my father's name. It did not list mine. I looked at Mother. She had worn blue silk to match the wedding colors and a pearl brooch that belonged to my grandmother. Nothing about her suggested she had sold the contents of my father's shadow box 12 days earlier and told me they had been moved for safekeeping. My younger sister, Marissa, stood on Mother's other side, holding seating changes for a wedding so expensive people had stopped saying the total out loud. Mom, Marissa whispered, what does that mean? Mother kept smiling toward a photographer. It means your father's things are where people can appreciate them. They were in my house, I said. Her smile did not move. And now they're in a museum. There are moments when anger arrives hot. Mine rarely does. Mine becomes precise. I noticed the accession number beneath the label. I noticed the compass had been placed upside down, with the hinge facing the visitor. I noticed a clean square in the velvet where Dad's combat medic badge should have been. Most of all, I noticed the final line, acquired through the Warren Foundation from a private family sale. A private family sale, not a loan, a sale. Mother finally looked at me. Do not make this ugly tonight, Claire. The sentence was quiet enough to disappear beneath the quartet. That was my mother's favorite kind of cruelty. It arrived dressed as good manners. I had spent 26 years in the Army Quartermaster Corps, including my final assignment coordinating recovery missions for Americans still missing from past wars. I had stood beside families while scientists explained that a tooth, bone fragment, or corroded identification tag had given a name back to someone history had misplaced. My family described that work differently. According to Mother, I had spent my career inventorying old remains. According to Marissa's fiancé, I worked in military archives. Neither description was completely false. I let both assumptions stand, choosing silence over praise. A man behind us cleared his throat. He was tall, silver-haired, and wore a badge that read Dr. Malcolm Avery, Executive Director. I had seen his photograph near the entrance beside the board list. He was staring at me, not at my dress, not at the case. At my face. Excuse me, he said. Were you stationed in Hawaii about 8 years ago? Mother answered first. My daughter moved around quite a bit. Nothing glamorous. Dr. Avery did not look at her. His eyes settled on the scar beneath my right ear, left by a helicopter door during a recovery mission in Laos. Then his expression changed. Lieutenant Colonel Bennett? The photographer lowered his camera. Marissa turned toward me. Mother's champagne glass stopped halfway to her mouth. I had retired 6 years earlier. In civilian rooms, people called me Claire. Hearing my rank beside my father's stolen medals felt like the opening of a locked door. Yes, I said. Dr. Avery stepped closer. My brother came home because of your team. Around us, the quartet continued playing, unaware the evening had changed. Mother looked from him to the case. For the first time, she seemed to understand that the objects behind the glass had a history she did not control. She still believed the sale was finished. She still believed the museum belonged to people who would admire her for placing those medals there. She did not yet know that museums keep records, and records, unlike families, do not stay silent to preserve the mood. 12 days before the museum preview, I came home from a recovery briefing and found a rectangle of clean paint on my living room wall. The shadow box had hung there for 6 years. My father built the frame from walnut, salvaged from an old church pew. Inside, he arranged his medals, dog tags, medic badge, and compass on faded green felt. He had never displayed them while he was alive. He said medals belonged in drawers because the people who earned them already knew what they meant. Before he died, he handed the box to me in the parking lot. Your mother sees objects, he said. You see names. That was the closest he came to explaining why he chose me. Nothing else appeared disturbed, the television remained off. My laptop sat on the desk, even the spare cash in the kitchen jar was untouched. I called Mother. She answered quietly on the fourth ring. "Did you take Dad's shadow box?" A pause followed. "Not surprise. I moved it. Where? Somewhere safer." My mother had a key because she fed my cat during deployments and once drove me home after shoulder surgery. I had never taken it back. In our family, returning a key felt more hostile than keeping a secret. "When did you come inside?" "Claire, I will not be interrogated." "That was not my question," she sighed. "Marissa's wedding has placed everyone under tremendous pressure. I saw dust collecting on your father's things. I thought they deserved better." The mention of the wedding told me more than her answer. For 11 months, every family conversation had bent toward Marissa's ceremony. The venue was a restored steel baron's estate outside Pittsburgh. Mother spoke about the guest list as though foreign diplomats were attending. Marissa had wanted a church reception with barbecue and a local band. Then she became engaged to Nathan Warren. Nathan was kind, soft-spoken, and born into the sort of family that placed its name on hospital wings. He never demanded extravagance. His mother did not either. But Mother saw the Warrens' money and began competing with people who did not know a contest existed. She promised the Bennett family would cover half the wedding. That promise amounted to $91,000. Mother had $23,000 in savings. She never explained the difference. I drove to her house that evening. Marissa was at the dining table addressing envelopes. Mother sat across from her with a calculator, 3 invoices, and a yellow legal pad. "Where's the shadow box?" I asked. Marissa looked up. "What shadow box?" Mother pushed her chair back. "Not now." "Yes, now." Marissa's eyes moved between us. "Dad's medals?" Mother gathered the invoices. "I arranged for them to be professionally evaluated." "That is all. You entered my house without asking and removed property Dad gave me." "He gave those things to the family." "No, he gave them to me." Mother's face hardened. After Dad died, his will divided money equally between his daughters and left Mother the house, pension benefits, and household property. The shadow box was listed separately in a signed personal property memorandum attached to the will. "To Claire, for the work she does bringing our people home." The memorandum was not sentimental decoration. In Pennsylvania, a will can refer to a separate written list for tangible personal property if the document identifies the items and recipient clearly enough. Dad had dated and signed his list in front of his estate attorney. Mother knew because she received a copy. "Do you still have them?" I asked. "They are being handled." "By whom?" Her mouth narrowed. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Turn every conversation into a chain of custody." Marissa placed her pen down. "Mom, just tell her where they are." Mother carried the invoices toward the kitchen. "Your sister has spent her life treating dead people's belongings like sacred evidence. I am trying to make something useful out of objects nobody sees." I followed her. "They are not yours to make useful." She turned at the counter. Fear moved beneath her anger. It vanished quickly, but I recognized it. I had seen that expression on officers who discovered an inventory shortage before inspection. Mother opened a drawer and removed a white envelope. Inside was a cashier's check receipt for $36,000. The purchaser line read Warren Foundation Acquisition Fund. Marissa came into the kitchen behind me. "What is that?" Mother folded the receipt before she could see it. "A private donation arrangement." My sister looked at me. "Is this paying for the wedding?" Mother's answer came smoothly. "It is helping the family meet an obligation." Marissa went pale. "I never asked you to sell Dad's medals. I did not sell memories," Mother said. "I converted unused property into something that benefits the living." I held out my hand. "Give me the receipt." She slipped it into her blouse pocket. No, that word changed the room. Until then, I could still imagine misunderstanding, panic, or a temporary loan. Her refusal told me she knew ownership mattered. I left without shouting. I called Dad's estate attorney from my car, but his office had closed. The next morning, I requested a copy of the personal property memorandum and changed the locks on my house. I did not call the police, not yet. Mother had said the items were being evaluated, and the receipt named a charitable acquisition fund, not a museum. I did not know whether the transaction was complete. 3 days later, Mother texted me an invitation to the museum preview. Beneath the digital card, she wrote one sentence: "Please behave like family." I read it twice, then I accepted. The invitation to the museum preview arrived on a Tuesday morning, but my mother's decision had begun months earlier with a ballroom deposit. The estate Marissa chose required a final payment of $38,000 14 days before the wedding. Mother signed the contract after promising the Bennett side would cover the venue, catering, and flowers. Marissa believed Mother had inherited enough from Dad to manage it. She had not. Dad's pension covered the mortgage and basic expenses. Mother's savings came to a little more than $23,000. She still promised $91,000. The difference was not only financial. It was social. Nathan's mother, Helen Warren, chaired the hospital foundation. She spoke to waiters by name and drove an old sedan. Mother interpreted that restraint as hidden superiority. When Helen suggested seasonal flowers, Mother ordered imported orchids. When Helen offered the family church hall for the rehearsal dinner, Mother booked a private room overlooking the river. When Marissa wanted one simple dress, Mother added a second gown. She was not trying to give my sister a beautiful wedding. She was trying to prove the Bennetts belonged in a room nobody had asked us to enter. 2 days after the shadow box disappeared, I met Marissa at a diner near her apartment. She arrived in scrubs after a 12-hour shift. "I canceled the champagne wall," she said. I blinked. "The what?" "Exactly, Mom said it was paid for." Then the vendor called because the card declined. Marissa opened a spreadsheet on her phone. The wedding total had grown to $182,000. The final venue payment was due in 9 days. "Did you know?" she asked. "Not all of it. She says Dad wanted me to have the wedding he could not give me. Dad thought 100 people at a reception was excessive." Several payments came from Mother's checking account. 2 came from a home equity line opened 4 months after Dad died. The rest were marked pending. "Why did you let her do this?" I asked. Marissa looked wounded. "I did not know." I believed her. My sister's weakness was not greed, it was avoidance. She had learned that Mother's generosity always arrived with conditions, so she stopped asking what anything cost. "What did Nathan say?" "He wants to cancel the estate and use the church hall." "That sounds sensible. Mom says canceling now would humiliate her in front of the Warrens." There it was, not ruin us, not hurt Marissa, humiliate her. Mother had worked for 28 years as a bank branch manager. She understood transfer forms and the difference between possession and ownership. She also knew how authority sounded when spoken with confidence. The Warren Foundation purchased military artifacts for donation to museums. Mother approached its acquisitions committee through Helen's assistant and described herself as the surviving spouse and family representative. Neither title made her the owner of the shadow box. But both sounded official enough to move the conversation forward. The committee requested provenance. Mother supplied Dad's death certificate, an old photograph of the box, and a notarized seller statement declaring that she had full legal authority to transfer the collection. She did not forge my signature, she did something quieter. She omitted me. At the diner, Marissa reached across the table. "If Mom used Dad's medals to pay for this, I will cancel everything." "No, you will not decide anything until we know whether the sale can be reversed. I cannot get married with money stolen from you. You are not the one who took it, but I benefited." Unknowingly, she looked toward the window. Across the street, a florist unloaded white roses. "I should have asked more questions," she said. "So should I." For years, I had mistaken Marissa's silence for agreement. It was easier to think she and Mother were one unit than admit my sister had learned the same family habit I had. We both avoided conflict. I did it by leaving. She did it by staying pleasant. Mother used both. Before we left, I asked Marissa not to confront her again. "Why?" "Because panic may make her move the pieces somewhere else." "You sound like you are running an investigation." "I am trying not to." That was the difference between this story and the recovery missions I had led. In Laos, Cambodia, and the Pacific Islands, every fragment entered a documented chain. Coordinates were logged, seals were numbered, transfers required signatures. Inside families, people relied on memory and trust. "Trust leaves no receipt." The night before the preview, Mother called. "The museum event is important to Nathan's family," she said. "You will not discuss private finances there. I am attending to see Dad's belongings. They are part of a collection now. They are still mine." She was silent. Then she said ownership is not the same as deserving. The line told me how she justified everything. In her mind, selling the shadow box was not theft. It was redistribution. The next evening, I entered the museum through a corridor lined with uniforms whose names had been printed correctly beneath them. At the far end of the gallery, Mother stood beside the Warren Foundation plaque. She looked relieved when she saw me arrive alone. She did not know the museum registrar had placed a temporary accession tag beneath the case. Temporary meant the transfer had not closed that night. By 7 o'clock, the museum gallery had filled with donors, board members, and reporters. The Bennett collection stood beneath a wash of white light near the center of the room. A temporary plaque carried my father's name in letters larger than the label beneath his own photograph. Mother remained beside the display, accepting compliments as if she had preserved the artifacts through decades of war and storage. I stayed quietly near the back wall. Marissa had arrived with Nathan earlier. She wore a simple green dress, not one of the outfits Mother had selected for her. Nathan kept one hand against her back. He knew enough to be worried, but not enough to understand why. Mother introduced them to a state senator, then waved me over. "This is my older daughter, Claire," she said. She worked in military administration before retiring. The senator offered his hand. "What kind of administration?" "Logistics," Mother answered. I shook his hand. "Recovery operations." Mother smiled wider. "She means records." The senator looked at me again carefully. I let the correction stand without explanation. A waiter passed. Mother exchanged her empty glass for another and turned toward the display. "My husband never talked about Vietnam," she told the senator. "After he died, I felt a responsibility to make sure his service was not forgotten." The sentence was polished. She had rehearsed it. Marissa looked down. Nathan's mother, Helen, approached from the other side of the gallery. She wore no jewelry except a wedding band. When she saw the case, her expression softened. "Evelyn, this is generous," she said. Mother lifted one hand in modest refusal. "The medals belong to history now." I watched Marissa flinch. Helen read the label. Was Claire involved in arranging the donation? The question was ordinary. Mother's answer was not. "Claire has difficulty letting go of objects connected to the dead." The senator shifted his weight. Helen's eyes moved from Mother to me. Before I could respond, a museum volunteer tapped a microphone near the quartet. The gallery lights dimmed over the crowd and brightened around the display. Dr. Avery stepped to the front. "Tonight," he said, "we are introducing several objects whose stories connect Western Pennsylvania families to conflicts across generations." Mother straightened. This was the moment she had purchased. A photographer moved into position. The Warren Foundation logo appeared on a screen behind the case. Beneath it, the Bennett name followed in smaller letters. Mother reached for Marissa's hand and pulled her forward. "Come stand with me." Marissa did not move. Nathan whispered something to her. She shook her head. Mother's smile held, but I saw the warning in her eyes. Dr. Avery thanked the Warren Foundation for supporting the acquisition. Then he thanked the Bennett family for making the collection available. Applause filled the room. Mother stepped into the light alone. For a moment, she had everything she wanted. The donors were watching. The photographer captured her beside Dad's medals. Helen Warren applauded politely. The museum had placed our family name on a wall. Mother's debt, her lie, and the missing shadow box had been transformed into philanthropy. That was her false victory. She believed applause could settle private ownership. Dr. Avery invited her to say a few words. Mother accepted the microphone. "My husband believed service meant sacrifice without recognition," she began. "As his widow, I could not allow these pieces to disappear into a private home where no one would see them." Her gaze found mine. The message was clear. I had hidden the medals. She had rescued them. Now, she continued, "Future generations will understand what men like him gave for this country." Men like him, not the daughter he chose to receive them. Not the recovery teams who spent years returning names to families. Not the people whose work she had dismissed as inventory. Only the version of service that photographed well. When she finished, the applause was quieter. Dr. Avery took back the microphone. His expression had changed since speaking to me. He looked toward the display, then toward a woman standing near a side door with a tablet pressed against her chest. She wore a badge that read Museum Registrar. The woman gave him a small shake of the head. Dr. Avery did not introduce the next speaker. Instead, he said, "Before we proceed, I would like to clarify one point regarding the status of this collection." Mother's hand tightened around her champagne stem. The registrar crossed the gallery. She stopped beside the case and bent to examine the accession tag. The quartet had gone silent. Without the music, every movement became audible. Shoes against wood, glass set on a tray, the soft, mechanical click of a camera adjusting focus. Mother stepped closer to Dr. Avery. Is something wrong? He did not answer her immediately. His attention returned to me. Lieutenant Colonel Bennett, he said, would you mind joining us? This time, Mother did not correct my title. She did not say I worked in records. She simply watched as the room opened a path between me and my father's medals. I walked toward the display. Dr. Avery waited until I stood beside him. Up close, I could see that his badge was clipped to a frayed leather holder repaired with black thread. People who preserve old things often carry their own repairs in plain sight. He lowered the microphone. My brother was Captain Thomas Avery, he said. The name reached me before the memory did. Then I saw a rain-soaked airfield on Oahu. A conference room without windows. A family seated across from me, while a forensic anthropologist explained why one fragment of dental work had changed a case open for more than 40 years. Thomas Avery had been listed missing after his aircraft disappeared over Laos. Our team did not find a complete body. Recovery work rarely offers that kind of mercy. We found bone fragments, a damaged survival radio, and part of a flight glove beneath soil shifted by decades of monsoon seasons. The laboratory established identification through mitochondrial DNA and dental comparison. Dr. Avery had stood beside his mother when we transferred the flag-covered case. I remember your family, I said. My mother remembered you until the day she died. He turned toward the audience. Lieutenant Colonel Bennett led the joint recovery effort that returned my brother to us after 43 years. The room froze. Helen Warren's polite applause died first. The senator's eyebrows lifted. One reporter raised a recorder. Mother stared at Dr. Avery with an expression I had seen only once before, when a bank examiner arrived early during her final year at the branch. She was not embarrassed yet, she was recalculating. Dr. Avery continued. Her work helped return more than 30 missing service members to their families. Mother stepped toward the microphone. Claire never discussed those details with us. It sounded like an explanation, but it was really an accusation. I kept my voice level. You did not ask. A few people looked away. That was the only sentence I gave her. Dr. Avery nodded toward the compass. When I saw the name on the label, I thought the connection might be coincidence. Then I recognized you. He looked at the accession card. But I am concerned that the ownership history provided to the museum does not identify you. The registrar opened her tablet. For the record, she said, the objects are not yet part of the museum's permanent collection. Mother's head turned sharply. The foundation already paid for them. The foundation paid the seller, the registrar replied. The museum has not completed accession. Her voice was calm and technical. That made it harder to dismiss. She explained that museums do not simply place an object in a case and become its owner. Before formal accession, the staff verifies the chain of title, donor authority, restrictions, and competing claims. The temporary number beneath the display meant the objects were under review. Nathan looked at his mother. Helen Warren had gone still. Mother raised her chin. I am the widow. These were my husband's possessions. The registrar tapped the screen. The seller statement says you were the sole lawful owner. I was. Marissa stepped forward. No, Mom, Mother turned on her. This is not your concern. It paid for my wedding. That makes it my concern. The words moved through the room more quickly than Dr. Avery's introduction had. A reporter lifted his camera again. Nathan placed himself beside Marissa. Not in front of her, beside her, Mother noticed. Her grip tightened around the stem of her glass. You do not understand the arrangements, she said. Marissa looked toward the case. I understand Dad gave those medals to Claire. Dr. Avery glanced at me. Is that correct? Yes. Do you have documentation? I have a certified copy of the personal property memorandum at home. Mother laughed without humor. Of course she does. The registrar did not smile. A signed memorandum attached to a valid will may establish ownership of specifically identified personal property. We will need to review it. Mother set her glass on a passing tray hard enough to spill champagne over the rim. This is absurd. The museum accepted the collection. We accepted temporary custody, the registrar said. Not legal title, that was the first micro-reveal. The display was real, the applause had been real, the sale money had already moved. But the museum did not yet own what stood behind the glass. Mother looked toward Helen Warren, expecting support. Helen walked to the registrar instead. Our foundation will cooperate fully, she said. If the seller lacked authority, the transaction must be reversed. Your family approached me, Mother said. Helen's expression remained composed. You approached my assistant. The distinction was small. Its effect was not. Mother had spent months presenting the Warrens as partners in her decisions. In one sentence, Helen removed that shelter. Dr. Avery asked the photographer to stop taking pictures until the ownership issue was resolved. The man lowered his camera. Staff members moved quietly toward the case. One closed the guest book. Another removed the card identifying the display as a new acquisition. No one accused Mother of theft. No one needed to. Her victory was being dismantled through procedure, one neutral action at a time. As the registrar unlocked the base of the display, the brass compass caught the overhead light. The needle trembled, then it settled 7 degrees west of north. Exactly where it always had. The registrar asked everyone except the immediate parties to step back from the case. That fret created a circle around us. Mother remained inside it. So did Marissa Nathan, Helen Warren, Dr. Avery, and me. Reporters stayed near the gallery entrance, where museum staff could watch them. The registrar introduced herself as Elaine Porter. Before anything else happens, she said, I need to document the current condition of each object. She photographed the medals, dog tags, compass, and empty space where the combat medic badge had once rested. Then she placed a gray cover over the case. Mother crossed her arms. You are treating me like a criminal. Elaine looked up from her tablet. I am treating the collection like disputed property. There was no anger in her voice, only procedure. Dr. Avery moved us to a private conference room upstairs. From there, I could still see the covered display through an interior window. Elaine opened the acquisition file on a wall screen. The first document was the seller statement. Mother's signature appeared beneath a declaration that she held full and unrestricted title to every object listed. Elaine enlarged the property description: silver star medal, Purple Heart medal, identification tags, brass field compass. Combat medical badge. The badge was included in the sale even though it was not in the case. Where is that item? Elaine asked. Mother's eyes shifted toward her handbag. She opened it and removed a velvet pouch. Marissa nearly gasped. Mother placed the badge on the table. I intended to have it cleaned. Elaine photographed it before touching it. The next document showed that $36,000 had been transferred to Mother's account 5 days earlier. Then Elaine opened a handwritten intake questionnaire. Question 12 asked whether any heir, beneficiary, or other person might claim ownership. Mother had written no. That was the first proof of intent. Not confusion, a direct answer to a direct question. Mother leaned forward. My husband left me the house and everything in it. The shadow box was not in your house, I said. You moved it. He gave it to me. You say that now, Elaine interrupted. Do you have state records? Helen's attorney joined by video and introduced himself as Samuel Reed. A copy can be obtained from probate, he said, but a certified memorandum will be faster. Dad's estate attorney had emailed me a scanned copy. I forwarded it. The document appeared on the screen. It listed the shadow box by material, dimensions, contents, and location. Walnut display case containing Vietnam-era metals tags, medic badge, and damaged brass compass. To Claire Bennett, Dad had signed and dated it 18 months before his death. Samuel spoke first. This creates a serious title defect. Mother shook her head. Serious is not final, no, Samuel said. But the foundation cannot transfer an object it may not have lawfully purchased. Elaine opened the museum's independent provenance review. A black and white photograph appeared. Dad stood in our backyard with the shadow box on a picnic table. I stood beside him holding the compass. The image came from a newspaper story about my recovery work. Beneath it was a quote from Dad. Claire will keep these when I am gone. She understands that metals are names before they are metal. That was the second layer, independent confirmation. Not my memory, not a family argument, a statement published years before the wedding existed. Mother looked toward the window. I was his wife for 47 years, she said. A newspaper sentence does not erase that. No one said it did. What he left you erased me. There it was, the wound beneath the decision. Dad had trusted me with the part of his life Mother never understood. She had experienced that choice not as preference, but rejection. For the first time, I saw something beneath her calculation. Grief sharpened by pride, it did not excuse what she had done. But it explained why she needed the sale to become a public declaration of authority. Marissa wiped her eyes. You could have told us you were hurt. Mother's voice broke. And let everyone know he chose Claire again? Again, the word carried decades, my military career. My father's quiet pride, the calls after deployments. Mother had counted every bond between us as something taken from her. Elaine returned to the file. There is one additional issue. She displayed an email from Mother to the Foundation's acquisition assistant. The assistant had asked why Claire Bennett, named in the newspaper article, was not participating in the sale. Mother's reply was 3 sentences long. Claire has no legal interest in the collection. Her work with military remains has made her emotionally possessive about artifacts. Please do not contact her as she may attempt to interfere. That was the third layer: knowledge, purpose, concealment. Mother did not deny writing it. Marissa removed the wedding payment schedule from her bag and tore it in half. The estate is done, she said. Mother turned toward her. You will lose the deposit, then I lose it, $38,000. It was never worth this. Helen reached for her son's hand. We can use the church hall, she said. Mother looked around the table, waiting for someone to rescue her version of events. No one did. Samuel explained the next steps. The museum would retain temporary custody. The foundation would issue a rescission notice. Mother had to return the $36,000. If she refused, the foundation could seek recovery in civil court and refer the false seller declaration for review. Mother looked at me. You planned this. No, you brought the memorandum. After you took the shadow box, you accepted the invitation because you knew. I accepted because I wanted to see where you put my father. Dr. Avery closed the file. She did not alert us, he said. I recognized her. That removed Mother's final defense. I had not arranged the audience. She had carried the lie into a building designed to preserve records, then invited the one person whose absence her story required. Elaine asked what I wanted done with the objects. Keep them secured tonight, I said. Nothing leaves until the transfer is reversed in writing. Mother gave a bitter laugh. There she wins. This is not a contest. It always was to him. No, it became one to you. I placed my hand flat on the table. You sold the objects. You do not get to sell the story. Mother looked at the torn venue schedule in Marissa's hands. For the first time that evening, she had nothing left to say. The museum kept the collection overnight in a locked storage room. By noon the next day, the Warren Foundation sent Mother formal rescission notice. It stated that the sale could not stand because she had transferred property she did not legally own. She had 10 business days to return the $36,000. Mother called me 6 times before breakfast. I answered the 7th. You embarrassed me in front of half the city, she said. You sold my property in front of half the city. I was trying to save your sister's wedding. Marissa did not ask you to do that. She would have been humiliated. No, you would have been. Mother went silent. I did not soften it. The foundation will receive its money, I said. The museum will release the collection after the rescission is complete. And if I cannot repay it, you still have the home equity line. That money was for the wedding. The wedding has changed. Her breath caught. You helped them take that from her. No, you attached her wedding to money that was never yours. I ended the call before the conversation could circle back into blame. Marissa and Nathan canceled the estate that afternoon. They lost $12,000 of the deposit. Helen Warren offered to cover it, but Marissa refused. The wedding moved to St. Luke's Church, where Dad had repaired the boiler every winter. The reception would be held in the parish hall. A barbecue restaurant supplied food. Nathan's cousin offered to play guitar. The guest list dropped from 240 people to 86. Mother called the change a public collapse. Marissa called it relief. For the first week, she stayed with me. She slept in my guest room and left half-finished cups of tea on every flat surface. She had done that since college. In my house, I found it comforting. On the 3rd night, Marissa sat at the kitchen table with Dad's property memorandum between us. I should have known, she said. You knew something was wrong. I kept accepting her answers. So did I. You left. Yes, the word carried no defense. I had spent years telling myself distance protected me from Mother's control. It did. It also left Marissa alone inside it. I thought you chose her, I said. I thought you chose not to need us. That hurt because it was partly true. Then Marissa asked, Are you going to report, Mom? I have not decided. Will the foundation? They may. She rubbed both hands over her face. I do not want her destroyed. Neither do I, but she cannot keep doing this, no. That was the line we agreed on. Mercy without accountability would only restore the old arrangement. Punishment without proportion would make the wedding another casualty of Mother's fear. The foundation's attorney offered a civil settlement. Mother returned the $36,000, using the remaining home equity funds, and signed a statement acknowledging that she had lacked authority to sell the collection. In exchange, the foundation did not pursue additional damages. The museum barred her from representing herself as a donor. No police came to her door, no newspaper printed her photograph beneath the word fraud. The consequences were quieter. She lost the money she had tried to create. She lost control of the wedding. She lost Helen Warren's social invitations. Most of all, she lost the assumption that her daughters would protect her from every consequence. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mother came to my house. She stood on the porch holding Dad's combat medical badge in its velvet pouch. The museum had released it separately after documenting the condition. I thought this should come from me, she said. I did not invite her inside. She looked toward the wall where the shadow box had hung. I was angry when your father gave it to you, I know. He trusted you with the part of him I lived beside for 47 years. That must have hurt, her eyes filled. For 1 second I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said you always had a way of making him proud. The sentence still made us competitors. I took the pouch from her hand. This is why we are not ready, her face tightened. You are keeping me from my own family. No, I am deciding what access you have to me. What does that mean? It means we will attend Marissa's wedding without pretending this is resolved. You will not discuss the museum, the money, or Dad's will with the guests. You will not tell anyone you donated the collection. And you will not enter my home without permission again. And if I disagree, then you will disagree from a distance. At the wedding, Mother sat in the second row, so did I. Marissa walked down the aisle carrying grocery store roses. She looked happier than she had at any dress fitting, tasting, or donor dinner. When she reached the altar, she looked first at Nathan. Then at me, not Mother, not the Warrens, me, I nodded once. The ceremony continued. 3 months after the wedding, Dr. Avery invited me back to the museum. This time, the Vietnam gallery was closed to donors and photographers. Only Elaine Porter, Dr. Avery, Marissa, and I stood in the room. The shadow box rested on a padded table. Every object had been returned to its original place. The combat medical badge sat beside the medals. Dad's dog tags lay beneath the compass. The green felt had faded unevenly, leaving darker shapes where each piece had rested for years. Elaine handed me a new agreement. It was not a donation. It was a renewable 5-year loan. The document identified me as the legal owner, listed every object separately, and required the museum to display the full ownership history. It also stated that I could withdraw the collection with 90 days' notice. I read every page. Old habits. Marissa smiled. You know she wrote half of that because she knew you would check. Elaine looked over her glasses. I wrote all of it because she would check. For the first time since the gala, I laughed. Dr. Avery brought over the replacement label. It began with Dad's name, rank, and service as a combat medic. Then it explained that the collection was on loan from Lieutenant Colonel Claire Bennett, United States Army, retired. The final paragraph described the compass. Damaged in Vietnam, it remained 7 degrees off true north. Bennett later used it to teach his daughter that an imperfect instrument could still be useful if its error was understood. I touched the dent near the hinge. When I was 9, I believed Dad was teaching me navigation. Years later, I understood he was teaching me judgment. People can love you and still fail you. Families can remember the same event and preserve entirely different truths. An object does not become honest merely because it is placed behind glass. Someone has to name where it came from, who carried it, and who has the right to tell its story. Mother did not attend the reopening. She and I still spoke occasionally, usually about practical things. Her furnace, Marissa's work schedule, the medication she forgot to refill. She never apologized in the clean way stories often promise. Sometimes she came close, then pride redirected the sentence. I stopped waiting. A week later, I mailed Mother a photograph of the finished case. She returned it with one line on the back, "Your father would have liked this." It was not an apology, but it was the first sentence she had written that did not compete with me. Waiting for the perfect apology had become another way of giving her control over my peace. Marissa and Nathan visited Mother every Sunday. I did not resent them for it. Boundaries are not instructions for everyone else. They are the terms under which I remain present. At the museum, Elaine secured the shadow box inside the case. Dr. Avery adjusted the compass so the dent faced forward. "Are you ready?" he asked. I looked at the label one final time. Yes, he turned on the display lights. The metals caught the light first. Then the dog tags. Then the compass, its needle drifting before settling in the wrong direction it had chosen more than 50 years earlier. This time, the error was written beneath it. Nothing had been hidden. Nothing had been sold. Nothing had been renamed. I stood beside Marissa while the gallery doors opened to a group of high school students. They moved toward the case with notebooks in their hands. One girl read the label aloud to her friend. She pronounced my father's name correctly. That was enough. I used to think revenge meant making the person who hurt you feel the same loss. Now I think it means refusing to let their choices decide what you become. My mother tried to turn memory into money. I chose to turn it into record. Money moves quickly. Records endure. If this story stayed with you, tell me whether your family ever treated silence as permission. Share it, subscribe to Spectre Veteran. And remember, my mother sold Dad's medals, but the museum finally put the right name back on the case.